I found the button. We're live.
Good evening.
Good evening indeed. How are we doing?
Pretty good now that I know what we're streaming today.
Yes, we changed, and I couldn't remember whether I had told you, and you didn't know. So it's possible I hadn't told you, but now we think that.
Oh, you definitely told
Oh,
me.
okay,
I
right.
remember now. I just didn't change my calendar, and since I live on my calendar, anything that doesn't go in my calendar doesn't get done.
Hello, Eugene19. Thank you for joining us.
I see Dan Fultron is also here, and I am Leg, and TGHS, who I don't know.
And then there'll be some people on the Mattermost as well.
Right.
So,
right.
Well, like spoiler alert, we're looking at a completely empty computer. It has Window Maker, as you can see. It has Xterm, and it has the VNC server that we need for doing the stream. But that's about it. But so later we're going to get into using the new GNUstep installation scripts to set this up. I imagine what that means is that we are going to do some chatting while we watch a script do its thing.
Yeah.
So actually, do we want to do a little bit of shit talking now, then run this script, then do the rest of the shit talking while we're waiting for this script to run?
Yeah. I do not have any shit talking subjects right now.
Okay, so
You do.
Well, let's.
I guess it might help to give the background on why we are installing GNUstep on the stream again.
Yeah, so if you haven't watched, our previous episode, which you may not have done because I haven't put it up on replay yet, because I've got a mental ordering error that I need to set up Media Goblin before I'm willing to do another replay, and that is involved, and I haven't done it. So that's waiting on that. But if you were there, or if you caught it on Twitch, you'll have seen that our streaming computer's hard disk was on its way out. Well, SSD was on its way out at the beginning of last stream. So we were late starting, actually, because the computer wouldn't boot. Our FreeBSD 13 environment that we've been using for all of our work on anti-RSI and Simple Agenda. And so we had the discussion last time with people from chat and a few sort of different takes on what would be a good system to run to run GNUstep on, because basically I had to buy a new SSD and install it and do a thing from an installation from scratch on this computer. So we had that discussion. Correct me if I'm wrong. Well, I think the basic unnuanced answer was that we either do something that is well supported, which is either Debian or FreeBSD, or something we're interested in doing the support work for, which is either Geeks or we're Geeks or Herd, but maybe Geeks on Herd. So then after the stream, we talked some more and thought, if we set up the development environment on Debian, we can then install Geeks inside Debian and then start doing the work to support Geeks as the package manager inside Debian. So what we can do is get back up and running very quickly by using Debian, by using the built-in installer, finish our work on Simple Agenda, and then we can move on to supporting Geeks by doing it from within Debian.
Yeah, and that I think that is a really good way forward, because it means that we get sort of the best of both worlds. We get a well-supported system, and the Geeks package manager is built for this kind of, you have multiple versions of things installed. It's kind of the whole point of it. So I think this is a really good solution, and Debian is well supported. And also, I mean, I'm one of the kids Debian raised, so I can I'm far more equipped to help debug when it's Debian.
Right.
FreeBSD is very well documented, and I understand it well enough, but I have to look everything up. On Debian, I don't have to look much up.
Yeah. So also, like, there is just a larger like population of people who are on Debian and
Yes.
its sort of offspring like distributions. And I think like we both have a bit of a all GNU all the time preference, and so if there is a copyleft option, we'll take it. And FreeBSD is a really nice operating system, and I've enjoyed our time with it. But
Yeah, I love FreeBSD. Yep.
if we get to add some geeks, then we're going to sort of make the free software, the copyleft commons of the free software a better place. So, sorry, I pressed the wrong button. I went back to the loading screen. That was my fault. I have now come back because I used that keyboard. So I'm going to tidy that keyboard away, and I'm going to use this keyboard. So, Greg Casamento pointed us at his install script. I've cloned the whole repo, which is not necessary because it is going to clone its own repo while it is running. But I just wanted to read some of the stuff before we get started. I have read it. I have an understanding of what it's going to do. So the next thing to do is tools scripts GNUstep web install.
And thanks again to Greg for shooting us an email with help. Greg does this. He helps often on stream, and also follows up by email almost every week.
No, absolutely, it's been very helpful.
Yeah, it's been fantastic, and we really appreciate it.
But the other thing is that obviously the work has gone in. I don't know whether it was just Greg or whether it was other people as well to keep these scripts up to date, because I looked in to using them when we started this stream, which must have been 4 months ago, and they kind of expected the old Subversion repository that was hosted on Savannah or GNU. So in between those times, this has been updated to to take the repos from GitHub as well.
Mm-hmm. The GNUstep folks have been really good at making sure that stuff works across a wide variety of systems, which I mean is excellent. But it also causes us some of these sort of decision paralysis over what do we use, because we could use everything. With a little bit of help from Ricardo Matala, we could use it on Windows. With these scripts, we can use it in many other places. It really does run everywhere, and it's really great.
Yeah, and what I have noticed in the sort of taking a larger picture, like a few years since I last sort of took a look at GNUstep, is that the platform support is a lot wider as well. Sorry, not the platform support, the API support. The platform support has always been pretty much anything that was supported by like the GCC compiler, and obviously now there's Clang LLVM in the mix as well, but they haven't sort of dropped support for GCC. And so my first experience with GNUstep was on Solaris, and it was fairly old Solaris even at the time. It was Solaris 7, which must have come out, I don't know, like 100 years ago, probably about the year 2000, 2002, something like that. And that, no, maybe even earlier. Go for the 2010. Anyway, that was supported and it all worked fine. But yeah, it was the level of API support, which of course it's always going to be hard to like draw a line in the sand and say, do you support like the same APIs as this version of macOS 10, for example? Because there's things like AppleScript, which is a part of the Cocoa APIs, are very unlikely to get supported in GNUstep, and like Apple's code and like the GNU project's code both have bugs, and so okay, we support these APIs, but is it source compatible if we don't have the same bugs that Apple have? And if we support their bugs, and then they fix their bugs in a later version, which version of the bugs are we supposed to have?
Yeah.
But there used to be a ton more missing APIs than there are now. And just looking at things like storyboard support, which landed in the last release of GUI, that is a massive chunk of work that's been done.
And storyboard support is huge for porting efforts and for getting apps over from Mac OS. Storyboards support is going to be critical for that. There's one of the things that I ran into when I was doing a GNUstep app, and I didn't ask for help, and I should have, because I know now that it was easily solved. I was looking for something, and in the version of GNUstep that I had installed, it just had empty header files, and it wasn't implemented. And I can't remember which it was, but it was one of the AppKit widgets. And what I found after I'd given up on this app idea that I was going to run with, after I'd given up, I found that actually it was fully implemented and met my needs, but I just didn't have the latest version.
Right.
And that was just my fault for not looking.
Yeah. So what the blathering on about the level of API support allows me to segue nicely into responding to Eugene19's question. Was this the first WWDC without Objective-C? Someone told me, not like I have seen this WWDC video but they told me, just on a Twitter thread, I think, that there is some level on the M1 processor. There is some new level of in-kernel support for the Objective-C fastpath, which makes some things incredibly quick. And it's something like, if the kernel knows that the cache is invalid for an Objective-C method, it will cause all processes to jump out of a particular path of the Objective-C runtime. I don't know the details. I didn't sort of look up this tweet to store in show notes before we started. But there is new engineering work in Objective-C, even if there isn't public facing talks about it on the interwebs.
This is one of the interesting things that we get from custom hardware that I would like to see more of. Of course, I would like to see it in more open platforms, but custom hardware allows us to do these kinds of things. And I would like to. I'm a fan of it, although it's on a platform that I'm, hoping I won't be using in 5 years. I just said 5 years, and not. I'm not quitting in 18 months. I'm not on my 18-month schedule anymore.
Nice. So UG19 says it's a branch prediction for a future ARM chip, which may be in a future ARM chip. So it's not necessarily in, on the current M1 Macs. It could be in an M2 or the later iOS chip.
Okay.
So yeah, the WWDC is interesting though, and they weirdly, and I swear there was no insider knowledge on this. I do a podcast. I've put a link in the chat to the script that we are running now. I'm going to put a link in the chat to my podcast, because please like and subscribe. And on the most recent episode of this, I was talking about the fact that most IDEs don't have a lot of developer workflow actually integrated into them. They're called IDEs, but really they're text editors with build buttons. And talked about the fact that Xcode is one of the more integrated for the whole developer workflow. It may not have the best source code editor of any IDE you can find, but it has got a load of GPU shader debugging built into the developer environment. It's got like performance tools built in. It's got memory graph diagnosis tools, and then it's got the things you might expect, like the GUI builder and the static analyzer and stuff. But I said one thing you still have is that you have to go out to like GitHub or somewhere to do your code reviews and your CIs and everything. And why can't I see like review comments on my code as meta commentary on my code in the IDE? And guess what they released at their platform State of the Union yesterday? Because they bought some one of these like Travis Circle type companies. They called Build Buddy or something. And so they released a like Xcode Cloud service which puts CI and code review and crash reports and user feedback from test flight and things into the IDE. And so I mean that's perhaps one of the places that GNUstep, the gap for people who are coming from the Apple land to GNUstep are going to see is that there isn't the same level of integration, there isn't the same level of developer tooling, and I mean there's just it's a massive gap, and Apple have been moving this stuff forward for years. They've moved it backwards occasionally as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have never been a fan of Xcode, and largely because of what I consider to be its lack of integration with stuff. And I really like I really like the integration. I like the tools. One of the things I've been I enjoy using when I get to use IntelliJ is if I'm working in IntelliJ on a project that's on GitHub, then you can do things like right-click on a line of code and say, give a link to this line of code on GitHub.
Right.
And copy that to your clipboard. And that level of integration is really great. You need to type a password.
Hunter 2. Right.
All right.
Oh! That was not... That's because it asked for my SU password, not my sudo password.
Aha.
So I'm going to do that again, and now know which password it's asking for.
Right. So it's not asking for Hunter 2.
No. It's I1 to believe, which was Mulder's password in an episode of X-Files.
I really like it. I've long been a skeptic of Xcode because there's a contingent of the developer community that has only ever developed for fruit flavored platforms or the web and fruit flavored platforms. And when you move from sort of TextMate and FTP into Xcode seems like a really great environment that's well integrated. But when you've experienced, Smalltalk or Emacs even, and systems like that, every environment you can point to is lacking. But I really like if they're working on the integration stuff, that's important. And so it's something that it's something that I am a fan of. I like the integrated tools. I like the collaboration features and things like that. And I want to see more of that in my regular sort of workflow. So it's these kinds of things are really important to me.
Yeah, I think there's nothing in the sort of Xcode workflow that you can't do on other platforms, but there is a hell of a lot of stuff that you don't do on other platforms because it's either not shown to you or you have to go and learn another thing, which sounds like it's a like a sort of specific tool. So like in Linux, if you want to do some like live performance tracing of your running thing, you're going to have to go and learn how strace works. There is like a time profiler button in Xcode that will launch instruments and launch your app and record a time profile of your app and then show it to you on a timeline. That one button thing is incredibly powerful, and it's even more powerful if you have documentation saying, like, if people are complaining that your app is slow, then press this button in Xcode.
Yeah, I think that we get when you compare developing sort of iOS applications with the alternative, which is Android applications these days. The level of integration in Xcode is kind of nice. There are some things that Android Studio does better because Android Studio is a better developer tool, I think, because it's based on with lots of caveats and asterisks, the best development environment available in sort of general use. But we've often used the phrase, not necessarily for good things, to say nobody but Apple can do this. And it turns out that things like Xcode Cloud, which I've only read just a very small amount about, and things like that, those are the kinds of things that only Apple can do. And we hope that only Apple can do this is something that they use for good and not evil. And we are often disappointed by this, but it sounds like some of that is is now better. So okay, so that looked like it worked. No.
So something requires GNUstep makefiles to be built, GNUstep makefiles to be set, but obviously installing GNUstep make is part of this script, which you won't have done, I'm guessing. No. Oh, okay. No, this is probably stuff from my window maker install. Well, maybe.
Looks like GNUstep.
It does. All right. Well.
Okay.
Where was that? Who's that? Right. So now I'm going to try running the script again, having sourced that, because then it should be able to find all of that stuff that it needed. So yeah, I mean, like I say, we can sort of critique Xcode as a source code editor, and like definitely if you compare it with AppCode, which is the Android Studio JetBrains thing that lets you edit Swift and Objective-C, that is a better source editor. But it is a worse integrated development environment because it's not integrated with anything. It's just a source editor that like understands your project format and lets you kind of run, build, and debug. I was using Visual Studio for Mac because I was on a Xamarin project, and Visual Studio for Mac is incredibly bad. Like it's one redeeming feature is that it will integrate with both the Xcode like simulator and SDK environments and with the Android NDK environment. So you've got like the ability to choose to build for debug or release on iOS or Android and then deploy to a simulator or a device on both platforms in like one little drop down. But like Visual Studio, actual adult Visual Studio is like a really good IDE. A Visual Studio for Mac is nothing like that. I think that like as integrated environments go, Xcode is great, and if you compare like we already know that there's no way to sort of edit a storyboard from not a Mac, right? You have to have Xcode. So like already GNUstep is on the back foot there. But like the thing that you can do in GNUstep with a tool is you can edit GORM files, which don't have like all of the features of that are available in a storyboard, because GORM is a port of like OpenStep Interface Builder, not a port of the storyboard editor from Xcode. So if you're coming from the platform and you go, right, I need to add a segue here so that I can push another view controller onto the navigation stack, which is a thing you want to do. It is a thing that Xcode allows you to do, and it is a thing that that you're going to struggle with, because you'd have to write it in Objective-C, like if you're on Debian.
Yeah, so a storyboard editor will go a long way in GNUstep land. I'm just remembering, because I said I didn't have any shit to talk, but I do have some free software shit to talk. Free software related, not related to GNUstep. For those of you that remember, the Mono project was the .NET CLR implementation for free software. And a lot of really great applications were built using that. There was a Banshee media player, was really great. F-Spot, the photo viewer and editor, was really great. And it seemed like all of the applications that got built for GNOME on Mono were just head and shoulders above in quality and usability above the other ones. And I don't know why. I didn't look into it. But there was a contingent of the free software community that was not happy about this. And they said, look, at some point Microsoft is going to slap your hands, and this is all going to be a problem, and so we should not be using Mono to develop software. And then time went on, and eventually the .NET platform became fully free software. I think Apache license. And that was exciting for me, because I thought, you know what, this means that Microsoft has a patent grant, I think, for free software included in .NET. And for a few years, we had fully free .NET. And in the latest release of .NET, they now have a dependency on a non-free library that is non-optional.
Okay.
And I caught this on the Stallman Was Right subreddit. And I don't remember which dependency it is, but it basically makes .NET not free software. And we have an error now.
Yeah, this failed in a completely different way, having included the make file. It now doesn't link doesn't find GNUstep GUI, which means that GNUstep make is installed, but the libraries aren't. I think the thing to do now is to, having relied on the script to install all of the dependencies, is to go around installing all of the libraries manually, and then carry on.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So carry on talking shit, and I will get on.
Well,
with
that was basically all the shit that I had to talk. Just that, you know, we had a free software implementation that people said don't use because there were dragons. And then we ended up with a free software implementation that was official, and everybody was happy. And I also thought that this was great news for free software. But there was a strong collection of people who said, look, at some point the rug is going to be pulled out from under us. And it was.
Here we go.
Sad.
So what had actually happened in the script was that GNUstep GUI had failed to build. Clang front-end command failed due to signal.
Okay.
So the compiler crashed.
It's checking out the latest commit of everything, so maybe we're on a bad commit.
I don't know. It looks like the compiler crashed.
Yeah, it says parser
Stack
EOF. Yeah.
Well, let's try. If it don't work, do exactly the same thing again. And if it still don't work, we can look at logs for that file that it crashed on and see if it has been recently changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Microsoft have gone exactly the opposite way on like most of their most of their effort now is on supporting like TypeScript, web development, Electron, the sort of general cloudish development environment on Azure, and sort of doing embrace, extend, extinguish on open source rather than on open sourcing their core technologies.
Yeah. Fortunately, because of the way licenses are, we have, and because of the patent grant, my understanding, this is expert advice, not legal advice, disclaimer. My understanding is that a fork that does not depend on the non-free stuff can exist.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure how many people actually care that much, because I certainly don't. I don't. For languages of its type, C# is probably my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't give a shit about the .NET ecosystem.
Yeah.
It offers me nothing, and I don't care about any of it. So I'm not going to do that work. And I can't picture a person who is embedded in that ecosystem well enough to do the work that would also care about the relative freeness of the libraries. Because,
right. Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
Yeah. No, it's the same reason why we don't have in sort of Apple and iOS land, why we have some open source stuff, but we don't have a lot of this is guaranteed to be free coming from Apple, because the people who do development for Apple platforms don't actually care. In the very general case, I mean, I realize that we represent a small subset of that do care, but we also represent a subset of that comes from pre-Apple ownership of this stuff.
Well, so like there's us. There's the likes of Chris Lloyd, who created the Cocotron, the CocoaPods people. But yeah, I accept that like the Cydia store was the other example I was going to use, because it's not one that people often think of. Like the Jailbreak App Store exists because the Cydia store people wanted to bring Freedom Zero to the iPhone. It is a free software project. That group of people, though, is small, and it's small on like Microsoft, and it's probably small on like Java as well. Although Oracle may have changed the the algebra slightly over there, but there is a large like sort of body of those communities who want the thing that is supported by the platform vendor, and
Right.
would see a third party add-on as a risk to their own product or to their own development process, because it adds something that is outside of both their own control and the platform vendor's control, and so could either fall by the wayside, or the platform could change in a way that means this thing doesn't work anymore, and things like that. And it's an entirely reasonable position to take. If you are sort of invested in the supporting that platform, and of course the Mac is has traditionally been a good enough platform that a lot of the developers there are developers there because they love that platform and they want its mutual success alongside theirs more than they want some sort of theoretical property, philosophical property of freedom in their computer.
Yeah, and that is it's hard. It's always been hard for me and many others to sort of reconcile the the Freedom Zero with the App Store and no side loading and all of that stuff. And I'm currently interested in the discussions around the Epic and Apple legal battle, because Epic, in the short term seems like our ally in the all I want from my what I want from my phone is to have more than two choices. But capitalism gives you choices, and I have and
But one of them is a
what I
pretty
want-
sweet solution.
right.
That actually built
and what I
that time. So it might have been. It might have been that the configure flags were set weird in the script or something.
Okay. Oh,
Anyway,
well, that's good.
We're moving on,
moving
and I
forward.
can do everything by hand now.
So the what I want from my computer is actually for it to be fully free. But I realize that due to living circumstances and other things, I just can't have that in a lot of ways. And so what I want then is, at least Freedom Zero, which is the freedom to use my phone for whatever purpose. And I have to pay Apple, I think $100 a year to be allowed to run software on my phone that I developed myself. And that seems like the problem that I would like to have solved, rather than a lot of other things. You are missing PL merge.
Yes, that's a property list.
Yeah, that's part of base, isn't it?
Yeah, and it complained at the top about me not having a thing on my path.
Okay. So we need to add probably user GNUstep.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
But having sourced GNUstep.sh, I would have thought it should be there. No, user GNUstep system tools.
It is. It is there. That is weird.
Okay, well, what I'm going to do is because what I did was run sudo make install, so make was running in the sudo environment.
Right, so it didn't catch the environment and pull the path through.
Matthew Scholar asks, RTMP breaking is my connection on the server? Well, things are still live on the Twitch bridge, which is going through the RTMP system. I'm going to look.
Actually, my Twitch has stalled.
Oh, right.
I've got.
And now
I'm here.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Twitch stream has paused.
rtmp.objcretain.com on my phone is up to date-ish, but not necessarily very good frame rate. Do I carry on, or do we call it?
It's yeah, it's really the audio seems to be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, the audio seems fine, but the video is really jittery. Oh, and Twitch has caught up. So, there we go. There were gremlins in it. Okay, so
yeah, it could be just bandwidth issues, I guess.
You need to get some of that sweet northern Swedish fiber into your house.
Yeah, but then I'd have like a really long cable going across the North Sea, and that wouldn't necessarily be any better. Right, this time it worked. It was
okay.
Presumably sudo -e, which is supposed to copy the environment. Presumably, in special cases, a path to stop root from running a unsuspected command or something. Right, so we've got...
That makes some sense. Okay, so now we've got...
I'm assuming that we've already got. Yeah. Okay. So. Right. So now we can do the things that aren't the basic libraries. So why don't we do core base?
What is in core base?
Core base is a port of core foundation.
Ah, right.
So I think we're going to end up with a weird subset of, because there's there is Gorm, but there isn't Project Center. There is core base, which you may or may not need. There is Xcode build and libx code and build tool though. Those are useful.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be able to run.
It might be worthwhile. Yeah, it might be worthwhile to for me to set up a Debian machine that just periodically runs the install script, headless, and reports whether it works or not.
Yeah, or just push a GitHub workflow.
Oh right, GitHub
to
has
the
this stuff, right?
To the upstream.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was looking at there's someone else. Is it Pierre Roussel who does the simple agenda? But someone else has got a repository of build scripts. I was looking at those before I'd switched to the official ones, and those ones do have continuous integration, but they only run on Debian 10, and I'm running on Debian 11.
Well, Debian 11's not out yet, is it?
No, it's testing.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I'm on Bullseye.
Yeah. 11 is, I think it's entering freeze soon. But so it might actually not be a good time to be doing.
Right, yeah. So this script might just not work properly on Bullseye because it probably has a different version of Clang in its packages than.
Yeah, I would say
Jesse
Clang
does.
is one of the things that got Buster, I think, is 10.
Okay. To be honest, I'm old enough that I remember Potato.
Yeah, my first Debian was Bo, I think, which I think might have been the first one that they. Oh no, Buzz was the first one that they used Toy Story names.
Right.
I'm just looking at it now. I think Bo was my first one, which was version 1.3.1. Let's see here. Yeah, I used 1.3.1 was my first Debian. But Ham was where it got really good. Ham was when it got... that was the first release that had apt, I think.
Okay.
And it was also the first release that had 68K support.
Right.
So I had a Mac 2FX that I could run Debian on at that point. It was. But yeah, Ham was sort of the one. I think that was the one that was really the game changer. I'm looking at the release history now. Debian Bo was 23 years ago. Debian Ham was a year later. Debian Slink was a year later. Potato was a year later. Woody was 2 years later. And then it was 3 years. And then it was 5 years. And then it was 3 years. And yeah, so and then when I worked at Neo4j, one of my colleagues made fun of me for running Debian because I always run Debian stable, on anything that I need to work. And he told me I don't use Debian stable because I don't want to use my grandmother's software. It is unfortunately a bit of a sticking point in Debian's history, where their release process in Debian is fantastic and I love it, and they produce a very stable system. But by the time Debian Bullseye is released, and it looks like hard freeze is happening or has happened in March. So so it is hard frozen, which means we'll probably see it this summer.
Right.
And in Debian Bullseye, which this summer will be the latest version of Debian you can get, will still, I think, only have GCC 10. And like a lot of stuff that is already a few years old. So it is unfortunately one of the things that you get with Debian, but they do a great job of making sure that everything that's in there works really well together. And so I really appreciate that. I mentioned to you, actually, and it might kind of be stream relevant since we're talking about distributions and installing software. There are a lot of people in the Debian developer community who consider Debian to be the meta distribution. They call it the meta distribution, and they don't think that people should actually use Debian. They think that they should use Debian as a base to build other distributions on.
Right.
And that's obviously a thing that a lot of people do. I would like to see Debian be awesome for everyone.
Yeah.
So Gorm launches.
Yeah, so really everything else is just getting all the software. Oh shit! Getting all of the software and building it, which may not be the most exciting stream, but I think it's the talking that is relevant. So while you were talking about Debian releases, I looked into what Matt Scala said, which was that RTMP has broken, which is the HLS player at rtmp.objc.retain.com, and I've logged into that server, and literally nothing is wrong as far as the server is concerned. The kernel couldn't care less, Nginx couldn't care less. Like, there's very little happening, despite the vast amounts of network traffic that was going through in order to accept the stream from OBS, redirect it to Twitch, and enable people to watch it through the player. It's just appears to be getting on with it, and so I don't know what that is about, unfortunately.
And it's weird that Twitch would work, but RTMP doesn't, because Twitch is fed by the RTMP server, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So Matthew says he's had some network problems today, so it might be more of that. I have had massive network problems all so far this week and last week. It's been absolutely brutal. Down here. Up north, I have no network problems that I know of, although you couldn't reach up north for a period of time this afternoon.
Yeah, while we were diagnosing the fact that I had typed the public key of your VPN endpoint in incorrectly, it also found that I couldn't connect to it at all. It wasn't that it was failing to handshake, it was failing to connect to do the handshake. So definitely objc.retain.com doesn't run on Fastly, so it's not that. I don't know whether you...
Right.
Presumably you did, because you're roughly similar time zone to me. But viewers in the West Coast, unless they have their page duty turned on and work Fastly, would have slept through. It wasn't that long, was it? It was only about a half an hour of outage, but
yeah, it was very small. It was very short. Yeah, I call that kind of thing bad internet weather.
But it just broke for everyone because Fastly are a CDN for GitHub, Stack Overflow, one of the platforms I work on uses Mapbox, and Mapbox uses Fastly, so our app didn't work anymore.
It's weird how we got this beautifully, mostly decentralized system, and then we centralized around 4 companies.
Yep.
There was a period where I think last month, where some Amazon thing in Europe had issues, and so just basically nothing worked. And it's completely nuts.
Well,
so we have a project center.
Yeah, I would say that we're pretty much like set up to the point where we have the basics in place. We have the compiler, we have the libraries, we have the IDE apps. We could get things like the GNUstep application project, so that we've got terminal and text edit. We could get obviously simple agendas, so that we can work on that. There may not be more value in doing all of that on the stream, though.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's an excuse to stay online and to carry on the conversation, but it's not really the most exciting of content.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can we can we can carry on the shit talking, or we can. I think it's probably useful to pull down simple agenda and build it.
Yep. Okay. So we need libical first. I now need to work out where these things are. And get a browser so I can actually find them.
Right. You do want Firefox. Firefox is in Debian now.
Oh, okay.
It's possible it's Firefox-ESR.
What is that? The Eric Raymond version?
No. It is the extended. It's the LTS version, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think if you want more modern Firefox, you are expected to install it from FlatHub.
Okay.
These days. Or similar.
I like the idea
of the ESR release.
Yeah, there's an ESR release that just sets your homepage to the NRA.
Right. Right. We do have some weirdos in free software. It's I think I like having I do like having the weirdos. I like a community that is fully accepting of everyone. So that doesn't bother me so much, even though I think ESR is a terrible human being. I do appreciate that I'm in a community that allows him to be a terrible human being.
With other terrible human beings.
Right. As long as he's not, actively hurting anyone, then he hasn't yet shot anyone at a free software conference.
As I'm sure, I hope someone has used this. I think I might have just accidentally come up with the worst anti-SJW phrasing of my life. But guns don't kill people, triggers kill people.
I love that. Oh, speaking of terrible human beings, Amiga Gamer 1200 has joined us.
Nice. So one thing I've never looked into is how to get... first, hello Amiga Gamer 1200. Amiga Gamer 1200. And something I've never looked into is... Oh, fuck.
If you're looking for a Debian package, you want to go to packages.debian.org.
No, I don't, because we need a particular ancient version of libical. No, what I'm looking for is preferences, so I can switch to DuckDuckGo.
That's always the first move I make.
Yeah. So, what was I talking about?
terrible human beings.
Yeah. Oh, I've forgotten. Oh, yeah, something I've never worked out how to do. Although, no, that's not true. About like 20 years ago, I worked out how to do it, and I had this set up on my system. I need to work out again. I need to rediscover how you get Window Maker and what's the G Workspace app to play together nicely, so that you have, when you quit G Workspace, you log out of your X session, and so that you have one desktop, not two desktops, and like one dock and not two docks. And the whatever it's called, LiveStep FreeBSD CD had that set up pretty well, and I don't know how to do it.
So Amiga Gamer 1200 in the chat has taught me about apt search, which
yes,
I did not know existed. I go in my browser to packages.debian.org when I want to look for packages. I did not know apt search existed. Thank you for that.
Oh, right. No, I do use that, yeah.
It is not often that I find a thing in Debian that I was not aware of.
It took me a while to move from doing apt get install and apt cache search to using apt as the front end for both of them. That I only did that within the last year, I'd say.
So I know exactly when I made that change to using the apt front end instead of using all of the individual tools, and that's because when I worked at Neo4j, I had to have scripts that would install. I had a test suite that would install the Debian package of Neo4j and make sure that it worked when I was working on packaging, and you could. Installing a package from a repo was using apt-get, and installing a package from your disk was using dpackage-i.
Yeah.
And when I learned about the apt front end, you can use the apt front end to install either a package by name, a Debian package by name, and if you use dpackage-i and give it a package name, a package file, you have to have worked out the dependencies yourself.
Yeah.
But if you use apt and say apt install foobar.deb, if you don't have the dependencies, it downloads the things you need to be able to install that local package.
Oh, that's useful.
Very useful, because I had a script that I had to update every time the dependencies changed. And so I was able to use the same command for both things, and it would handle all the dependency resolution for me. And that was really nice. Yeah, apt full upgrade. And I think the dependency resolver in apt doesn't just forward to apt-get. I think it's actually a better dependency resolver. That's my understanding of it, at least.
Okay.
Yeah, it's but yeah, the new front ends to these old tools are really nice.
I think that's how you spell his name. Whoa, it is.
You have this ability that I do not have to just type things from memory. I do not have the ability to just type things out. I heavily rely on tab completion a lot more than you do, as you noticed on the other stream. I have occasionally put the terminal on the Amiga stream into a bad state by trying to do tab completion or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I rely on all of that stuff, and I definitely would not have tried to type in a full URL. I would have used the duck.
Yeah, I I do have that, but it also means I'm quite slow at learning things, which is probably why I've never learned Swift. I've started an Objective-C stream is because I don't want to remember all of the Swift stuff in addition to all of the Objective-C stuff that I feel like I need to know, but that actually I could look up if I needed to. Oh, now my tab computer isn't working.
Amiga Gamer 1200's app changelog is a nice one, unless it's an Android package, because those just all say bug fixes and performance improvements. That should be the default commit message. If you just type git CI without a commit message, it can just autofill in bug fixes and performance improvements.
I don't quite trust this to not do something weird with that path terminator. There we go.
All right.
Yeah, I was thinking a long time ago, like when we started with this, this whole stream. In fact, I think I talked to you about it. I thought of the idea. We definitely talked about it years ago, and we had a discussion about whether to do it on the stream about doing the sort of app store style thing for GNUstep apps. So you just have like, you know, a storefront, which is like a list of packages, and then you say, oh yeah, like you search for calendar, and it would show you simple agenda, and you go yes, install, and then you would get like your Flatpak or whatever that contains the libraries and it. And then like some sort of Sparkle thing for updating maybe. But if you're going to use like a Snap or a Flatpak, then you probably don't need a Sparkle type experience. You just like keep that up to date. I kind of went off that idea, and I can't remember why. I think it's that for every single operating system and distribution, you need a separate build of all of the applications and separate logic in the update. So, and then every single like bearded hipster on the planet has their own opinion of why your technology choice was wrong, and you should use theirs instead. So, like on Linux, do we use Snap or AppImage or Flatpak or Docker or Singularity or VirtualBox or QEMU?
Right.
I might go the QEMU route actually. Like everyone can run the packages that they get from the GNUstep App Store, and the way that it works is that whatever platform you're on, it downloads a QEMU emulator with a VM running the app inside a Linux box.
Right. And then we only have to configure it once.
Yep.
Yeah, Amiga Gamer 1200 says Snap's the good one for the Ubuntu masses, but it makes everyone else angry because it's dependent on Canonical. And this is this is the sort of the modern problem, is that my understanding of when I looked into this lately is that FlatHub is really good for like GUI applications and things like that. But the sandboxing requirements are quite strict. But also it's hard to get Snap on Red Hat based systems, which is unfortunately a bit of a pain in the ass.
What's the thing you need to do to get Linux to update its shared library cache? LDconfig.
LDconfig. Yep. It's in SBin.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, that still didn't work. How do I tell LDconfig that the library is there and I can see it?
LD library paths, I think.
Well, that's for like hacking one in, isn't it? That's not.
Yeah.
ld.so.conf.
Yep. You've got 3 S's on that last. There we go.
Okay, well. Because what I want to do is to see what one of these looks like, and then I can... So it's just a list of paths. Right, okay. No, it's still not working.
That is unexpected to me.
Yeah.
Amiga Gamer 1200 says you might need to delete the current LD config cache, which is, I think, in etcld.so.cache, or it might be in var
there is,
LD
yeah.
something. That may or may not be it. I would cat it to just be sure. Yeah, that looks right to me. Okay, yeah, let's do the, yeah.
I'll delete that.
Yeah. What's the worst that could happen?
We do this stream again next week.
Oh, Amiga Gamer 1200, we live on the edge here.
Yeah, it still doesn't like it. I might try rebuilding. Didn't type anything incorrectly in the configure script, did I?
I don't think so. You gave it with the libical include and the library path. It's possible that it didn't like that you put the lib on the end of the thing. It might figure out that it's in lib.
Well, yeah, okay, so I'll run LDD again and see whether it is looking in use the local libical lib.
Right. Yep.
So libical.so.0 not found.
Right.
Okay,
so I would try taking the final lib off.
This is weird. The keyboard, the terminal isn't updating when I backspace.
Yeah, and I'm amusingly on the video stream from the video software is updating faster than the VNC window.
Nice.
Although I can't read because it's too artifacty to read it on the video share, but the VNC is a full second behind it.
That didn't actually change anything. Well, sorry, it did. It didn't change enough dependencies for Make to want to rebuild anything.
I wonder if LDD output gives us a hint. We did say that one of the things we wanted to do was update Simple Agenda to a modern release of libical.
Well, and the fact that you can't find our ancient version is motivation enough to do that.
I think so.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Okay, now we get linker error.
Aha. Okay. So now it's actually finding it. It just
cannot find -lical.
That is. Did you run LD config again?
So the first time it built, which means it found it at link time and didn't find it at load time.
Right.
And now
Yep, you are right.
Which means that
was correct.
That was correct.
Yes.
It's also possible that I got the wrong version of libical. I remember this wanting an ancient version.
.027 or later, and you got .048, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Sounds
So
about
it's
right.
possible. Yeah, it's possible that we got. I mean, .048 should work.
Hmm.
I mean, if they wanted to change the API, they would have had to abide semantic versioning and call it 1.0, right? And everyone does that.
They did, and it's up to 3 point something now. Right. Also, Amiga Gamer 1200 was complaining about how slow the build was. Maybe I forgot to enable JIT, which is a thing we did on the Amiga stream.
Right. You can enable the JIT with -J.
This has 4 cores, and it's an Intel hyper-threading chip, so it has 2 cores.
All right.
Right, what are they doing? Oh yeah. Let's just look at the results. Still not found. How weird.
That is confusing.
It is.
That is really confusing. How does it know to look for it?
Well, it will have linked it during the link phase of the, of the build.
Right.
But what I don't understand is that the linker saw it and then didn't bother writing the. I don't understand ELF particularly well, so I don't know why there is a distinction in the path lookup. It's not like there are paths or anything.
Okay. Sorry, I was confused by the command you were running. Because you're using bang LDD, you were looking at the linked libraries from. Okay, that actually makes sense because it's trying to have linked with that library and can't find it.
Right, but what I'm
the fact
confused
that it
by
can't find it is confusing.
Is that during the build, it linked in order to resolve all the symbols, and so it would have looked at what symbols were in this library, and decided that it could resolve them by linking this library. And
can you look at the configure help for a second? Because I have a theory. And it with okay, no. Okay.
You thought it might want the
with
the part of the
lib.
file. Yeah.
Yeah, or yeah. Yeah. I am now completely stumped.
What I might try is they just
LD flags.
Yeah.
If you set LD flags to you could just put LD flags equals on the beginning of the make command.
Right, let's clean it first.
Although my understanding of with iCal library is that it sets LD flags for you.
Yeah.
So you need -L in front of the path.
Oh yeah.
And I would also take off that trailing slash, but if it doesn't complain, we don't care. So we'll see what it does.
Amiga Gamer 1200 says those options should build the library static. No, they shouldn't build the library at all. They should just tell it where to find it to link it.
Yeah. And I would expect with iCal library to set LD flags, but it doesn't seem to be.
Yeah, I would expect a configure script to just write it into like the makefile input somewhere.
Right, and that looks like it. And it's still not found. That is fucking weird.
So, what has this? What are the .in files that it has? Local.make. Yeah, so additional libdirs equals -L use local lib ical lib. So this is the thing that has come from
the with like our
the
library.
.configure. Yeah, .configure. So it has done it. It just hasn't. Now, did I do the update to so.conf correctly? I didn't call. I called the file libical, not libical.conf. Is that important?
That might be.
Yes. Looking for star.conf.
Okay.
Oh, the sooner I can build GNUstep terminal.
Yes. Well, I think we can build GNUstep terminal now, actually.
And now it finds it.
So that was there we go.
Right,
And
sweet.
it runs.
Yeah.
All right. And
Okay,
I saw
so
it pop up a full second earlier on the video stream than I did in the VNC.
Nice.
All right. Okay. Looks like we are. Yeah. Okay. So that's building now at least.
Yeah.
Um.
So what I had to change in the end was that the ld.so.conf was importing files, including files from etc. ld.so.conf d star.conf, and I hadn't named the file with a .conf on the end, so I had to move the file and then rerun ld.config.
That was a lot of fucking about for
It
one
was.
misnamed file.
It
Whoops.
was.
Whoops.
Yeah. Right, should we get the GNUstep applications project, and then I'll have decent terminal?
Yeah, let's do that. I would volunteer for more typing, but the VNC is at least 2 seconds delayed.
Nice. I'm hoping that the gap is actually on
Terminal might be
GitHub
on the
somewhere.
GitHub GNUstep project. I'm going to look over there in a...
Yeah, I think the whole thing is actually.
let's see. At... I am sad that GNUstep moved to GitHub, but I did not volunteer to help.
I thought you did.
So
I thought you
fault.
said that you would run a.
Yeah, I think it was a bit too late, and also I was not well integrated in the GNUstep community at the time, so I was just a rando saying, "Hey, I'll do this thing." But everyone's using GitHub anyways, so it's it makes me sad though. Yeah, I do not see. Oh, you found it.
Well, what I found is that someone has taken the source from Gap, but this is not up to date. There have been commits to Terminal App in the last 18 years, I think.
Yes, because we have a patch in Terminal App for high DPI support from a 3-year ago FOSDEM.
Oh, did that get in?
So, part of it did at least, yes.
Sweet.
What do we have?
Oh, did we do it in Backbone?
Here we go. I just found it's on gap.nongnu.org/terminal.
Wasn't that what we were just looking at?
I don't know, but the last time it was 2017.
This. Oh, okay. So there hasn't.
No. Gap.non. Oh yeah. 099 is the latest one I'm looking at.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that was released right after.
Oh, 20. Yeah, that's 2017. That's not. Yeah. All right, I'll just get that one.
Yeah.
It saves me having to use Xterm.
I have often said, and I stand by this, that the command key is one of the reasons I still use a Mac.
Yeah, it is useful having command and control as different things. I'm sure that, like, you have to be in a particular niche to care, but it is useful. Linker command failed. Nice. Oh, I've seen this before. I'm pretty sure that I've patched this as well, and they just haven't released since. So this is there is a header file somewhere that defines this symbol and doesn't extern the definition. Terminal.window.h. Have I got wait? This is how new this system is. I haven't even installed Emacs yet. I wasn't going to. I was going to build the next step version, but you know I'm going to grab Emacs now and then build the next step version later.
I would like to use the GNUstep Cocoa Emacs if possible, because I like it. And I like that it exists,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we had some issues with it previously.
Oh, only that. There was some... that was due to the broken GNUstep GUI install on the FreeBSD box.
Right.
Once I fixed that,
Yes.
it started working.
I do remember that.
Yeah, I like that. That like all of the AppKit controls have got Emacs key bindings. It is now the case that Apple have just added Vim key bindings.
Oh, that's interesting. But the main problem now is that none of the apps that people use are AppKit. So, well, except that they, embed WebKit to run Electron or whatever the fuck they do. That's always the immediate tell for me when I'm using an Electron app. Is as soon as I get into a text input box, if it doesn't behave in the way that I expect it to, I know I'm using an Electron app, and I get angry.
Right, good. Proper terminal. You can go. You can disappear off my dock.
Beautiful.
Oh, now it's not running.
That is not beautiful. What is the...
Oh, I know why. Because I don't now have...
Right. Because Window Maker doesn't know that your GNUstep environment exists.
Yeah.
Right.
So what I need to do is whatever I have done before to source that. Is it xinit rc? Does Window Maker... Is xinit rc going to be run if you launch from a login manager or not?
I think Xsession runs if you log in from a display manager, and xinit.rc runs from startx. Just all lowercase Xsession.
Was it in... Oh.
User GNUstep.
Yeah. I can see it there.
I think that does the right thing.
Oh, we'll find out next time I log in. And that's why it quit, is because when I closed this terminal, it closed the signal that was running in. Okay, well, I feel like we've probably set ourselves up for getting some development done next week, which will also be on Tuesday. Are we happy to call it there?
We're in a good place for that.
Yeah,
I think so. I think we're in a good place for the next task, which we can do next week.
right. Well, thank you very much
Awesome.
to everyone in the chat. Thank you, Stephen, for the stream.
Thank you.
Please like and subscribe.
All right, and thanks everyone for joining us. Please like
Yep.
and subscribe.
We will see you all soon.